All right, so get ready, because today we are going deep into Zen Buddhism.
Sounds intriguing.
And you know what? You sent in some really incredible material for this one.
Oh, yeah.
We've got this excerpt, right, from D.T. Suzuki's book, An Introduction to Zen Buddhism.
Okay.
But it gets better. It even has a foreword by Carl Jung.
Wow, what a combo.
I know, right? Talk about a dynamic duo.
It really is. I mean, you've got Suzuki, who's like the leading voice, in bringing Zen to the West.
Totally.
And then you've got Jung, who's just this pioneer of, the depths of the human psyche.
It's a fantastic pairing, for sure.
It gives us a chance, to not just explore what Zen is, but, how it interacts with, maybe even challenges Western thought.
Exactly. We're not just looking at what Zen is, but we're going to explore those points of tension that Jung highlights between Eastern and Western philosophies. I think this is going to get really thought-provoking. So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so Suzuki doesn't waste any time shaking things up. He basically says right off the bat that Zen, it's not philosophy as the West understands it.
Interesting.
It's not about building these elaborate systems or, winning arguments with logic.
That's a key point. Western philosophy often focuses on reason and analysis and building these grand theories.
Right.
But Zen, it takes a much more, I guess you could say, direct approach. It's about experiencing truth firsthand, not just thinking about it.
I like that.
It emphasizes intuition and direct insight that goes beyond, just intellectual concepts.
Suzuki puts it this way. He says, if you want to know what Zen is, you must first of all experience it.
I see.
He even compares it to trying to define the taste of sugar, right? You can't just describe it.
Yeah.
You have to actually taste it to understand.
That makes sense.
And that's where this concept of everyday thought comes in.
Everyday thought.
Suzuki doesn't present Zen as some kind of esoteric practice, reserved for monks in monasteries.
Right.
He famously states, Zen is your everyday thought. I know, right? It might sound a bit underwhelming at first.
Yeah, you think, how can something so ordinary be the path to enlightenment?
Exactly. It doesn't exactly scream mystical awakening or anything.
Not quite.
But I'm sensing there's a lot more to unpack here.
Oh, absolutely.
What Suzuki is getting at, if I'm understanding correctly, is that Zen, it's not about, adhering to a set of doctrines or beliefs, right? It's more about cultivating a way of being, a way of seeing the world that just permeates every aspect of life, even the most mundane activities.
That's it. And that's where practice comes in, the actual doing, the living of Zen principles in our daily lives.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense. So it's not about escaping reality,
right,
or becoming some kind of detached hermit. It's about bringing that Zen mindset into the everyday. And this brings us to one of the most, I think, intriguing and often misunderstood aspects of Zen.
And what's that?
Satori, often translated as sudden enlightenment.
Satori, yes. Fascinating concept.
Suzuki describes it like struggling with a lock on a treasure chest, right?
Okay, yeah.
You're fiddling with it, you're getting frustrated, and then suddenly, C-L-I-C-K, it opens, and you have access to what's inside.
I like that analogy. Even Jung, in his foreword, he's both intrigued and puzzled by Satori.
Yeah.
He wrestles with those Zen stories. You know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where seemingly simple events.
Right.
A blooming flower.
Yeah.
A master tweaking a student's nose.
Trigger these profound shifts in consciousness.
He acknowledges that there's something powerful at play here.
Definitely.
Even if it, kind of defies our typical Western understanding of, spiritual awakening.
I think that's what makes those stories so fascinating and honestly a bit baffling.
I agree.
Suzuki's book is full of them.
It is, yeah.
The one where the monk achieves enlightenment.
Right.
After hearing a pebble hit bamboo.
Or the case of Hakuin.
Yeah.
Reaching Satori after his master, fiercely grabs his nose.
You have to wonder, what is really going on in those moments? Have you ever, had an experience like that where something just, totally insignificant sparked this huge insight?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's incredible, right?
And I think that's what Zen is trying to show us.
What's that?
Those moments are all around us.
I see.
It's about breaking through, our limited perception, our preconceived notions of how things should be, and seeing reality with, fresh eyes.
So it's not about seeking some, grand mystical experience.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the potential for awakening in like every moment,
Mm-hmm.
even the most ordinary ones.
Exactly. Suzuki and Jung, despite coming from very different backgrounds, both touch on this idea that Satori is, in a way, about like the breakdown of the ego.
That's really interesting.
Of that limited sense of self we create.
So how do they each approach this concept? Because I'll admit, the idea of like dissolving the ego sounds kind of abstract.
It is.
And maybe even like a little scary.
It can be.
It can be a challenging concept to grasp.
It is. So Suzuki, he talks about realizing the unsophisticated self, like our true nature.
Right.
Before, all the layers of conditioning.
Yeah.
And societal expectations were piled on.
Right.
Jung might describe this in terms of, like, accessing a more universal consciousness.
Okay.
Tapping into a realm beyond our individual ego.
Okay, so it's not about, like, annihilating the self completely.
Yeah.
It's more about transcending those limiting beliefs and attachments, right, that keep us from experiencing our true nature.
That's a great way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth noting, this idea of ego death and, like, spiritual rebirth, it's not exclusive to Zen.
Really?
We see echoes of this in various mystical traditions, Christian mystics like Master Eckhart. He spoke of a breakthrough where, like, one experiences this profound union with the divine.
So, while, like, the language and methods might differ,
right,
the underlying experience, it kind of resonates across cultures.
It does, yeah.
And spiritual paths.
Across those boundaries, yeah.
This is already so insightful. It's amazing how Zen challenges, like, our typical Western way of thinking.
It really does.
About spirituality and enlightenment.
Absolutely.
And it raises even more questions as we, delve deeper.
Of course.
For instance, there's this common misconception that Zen is all about, like, negation, emptiness, or even nihilism.
I mean, I can see why people might get that impression.
Right.
Especially when you read, like, some of those Zen sayings.
Oh, absolutely. Suzuki actually dedicates, like, a whole chapter to addressing this very point. And he quotes some pretty wild sayings.
Oh, I bet.
That on the surface seem to support that view.
Right. So how does he, like, counter that?
Well, that's precisely what we'll be unpacking next.
Okay.
How does Zen reconcile this apparent emphasis on negation with the idea of, a vibrant, lived reality?
Right.
How does it lead to a more awakened way of being in the world?
Great question.
So we're tackling this idea that Zen is all about, like, negation and emptiness.
Right.
I have to admit, reading some of those passages in Suzuki's book, I did kind of get that vibe. It's almost like, they're trying to strip away everything. We think we know about reality.
It's definitely a challenging aspect of Zen.
It is.
To, like, wrap your head around.
Totally.
But it's crucial, to understand that this negation, it isn't about, like, nihilism or denying the existence of the world.
Right.
Suzuki is very clear on this point.
So if it's not about, like, denying reality, what's the purpose of all this negation?
Think of it as, like, a way to break free from rigid thinking.
Okay.
From those intellectual traps we get caught in.
I see.
It's about deconstructing our preconceived notions.
Right.
Those fixed ideas about ourselves and the world.
Okay.
That, like, limit our experience of reality.
Okay, so it's like they're, clearing the mental clutter?
Yeah, you could say that.
To make space for something new to emerge?
Exactly. And what emerges, according to Zen, is a more direct, unmediated experience of life.
I love that.
Free from, like, those layers of interpretation and judgment.
Right.
That cloud our perception. It's about seeing things, with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
As they truly are.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about Zen being radically empirical.
Yes.
It's not about, like, blind faith or dogma.
Exactly.
But about direct experience, that aha moment of insight.
That's it.
And maybe, like, negation is a tool.
It could be.
For getting us there.
Absolutely. And Suzuki, he doesn't just, like, talk about this in theory. He gives us a glimpse into how this, uncluttered mind is cultivated.
Okay.
In the Zen monastic tradition.
Right.
He dedicates a whole chapter.
Oh, wow.
To the Zendo.
Zendo.
The meditation hall.
Yeah.
And the daily lives, of the monks.
Right.
Who practice there.
Yes. The Zendo. It sounds incredibly disciplined.
It is, yeah.
Waking up before dawn, long hours of, like, zazen or seated meditation, meals taken in silence, strict rules and rituals.
They're very structured life.
It's a far cry, from our image of like the solitary monk meditating peacefully in a cave.
It certainly challenges our preconceptions.
It does.
But this rigorous routine, it's all part of the practice. It's about like training the mind, cultivating that focused attention and awareness that Zen emphasizes.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Okay, what's that?
Suzuki emphasizes how central work is to Zen practice.
Work.
The monks, they aren't just like sitting around meditating all day.
Yeah.
They're farming, cleaning, cooking, even like building and maintaining the zendo themselves.
Oh, wow. It seems counterintuitive.
It does.
To our Western ideas of monastic life, doesn't it?
Totally.
We tend to picture monks as like secluded scholars,
Yeah.
or spiritual seekers detached from worldly affairs.
Exactly. But in Zen work, it isn't seen as separate from spiritual practice.
Okay.
It's all part of it.
It all comes back to that idea of like no abiding place.
Right.
For the mind. Work. It becomes another opportunity to practice non-attachment.
I see.
To like let go of those fixed ideas about who we are, what's important.
Yeah.
It's about finding, that Zen mind in everything we do.
I'm starting to see how, even like seemingly mundane tasks, like sweeping the floor or washing dishes, can become like a form of meditation.
It can.
A way to cultivate that present moment awareness.
Precisely. And Suzuki, he shares this wonderful story about a monk who achieves satori while washing dishes
No way.
after a meal.
Really?
It sounds almost like a joke.
It does.
But it highlights, a profound truth.
What's that?
About Zen.
Okay.
That satori, that moment of awakening,
Yeah.
it can arise in like the most ordinary experiences.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's not some like grand mystical event,
right.
reserved for a select few. It's available to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
That's powerful.
If they have, the right mindset.
And that mindset, if I'm understanding correctly, is about cultivating that uncluttered mind you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
Letting go of our preconceived notions, our judgments, our attachments to how things should be.
Yeah.
And simply experiencing reality as it is.
Exactly. And that's like where the real challenge lies, isn't it? Letting go of those attachments, those desires, even our sense of self.
Right.
It seems to go against, everything our Western culture values.
It does, doesn't it? We're so focused on like achievement.
Yes.
On striving, on building our individual identities. This idea of no self.
I know.
It's radical.
It is, and that's precisely where the tension lies.
Okay.
Between Zen and Western thought.
Yeah.
Zen, with its emphasis on, like, non-attachment.
Yeah.
And egolessness.
Right.
It directly challenges, like, those Western ideals.
Okay.
Of individualism and self-actualization.
So it's not about, like, denying our individuality.
No.
Or becoming mindless robots or anything.
Right.
It's about recognizing, like, the limitations of that ego-driven perspective.
Exactly.
And accessing a deeper, more interconnected way of being.
Yes.
In the world.
And this brings us to, like, another crucial point.
Okay.
That Suzuki emphasizes.
Okay.
Becoming a Zen master.
Yeah.
It isn't just about, like, intellectual understanding. It's not like getting a degree in Zen or something. He describes it as a long maturing of the sacred womb.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is, isn't it?
So it's not just about having like a sudden aha moment,
No.
but about integrating those insights into our lives.
Right.
Allowing them to like shape our actions, our way of being.
That's it.
In the world.
Precisely. And that's what we see in those stories. About Zen masters who, after years of rigorous training, they return to the world and live, like, seemingly ordinary lives.
Really?
As farmers, shopkeepers,
interesting,
artists, even beggars.
Wow.
It's like they're saying true mastery.
Yeah.
It isn't about, like, titles or status, but about embodying those Zen principles. In every aspect of life. No matter how mundane it may seem.
It's inspiring, but also, like, a bit daunting,
It is, yeah.
Can we really achieve that kind of freedom?
Right.
That kind of non-attachment?
Yeah.
In our modern, like, chaotic world?
It's a good question.
I mean, it's one thing for, monks who have
Right.
dedicated their lives to this practice.
Exactly.
But for us, like regular folks, juggling work, family, all the demands of daily life, it's tough.
It's a valid question for sure.
Yeah.
And one that, many grapple with.
Right.
Zen doesn't offer, easy answers.
Yeah.
But it does provide a path,
Okay.
a set of practices and principles that can guide us
Okay.
towards that kind of freedom.
And maybe, just maybe, by shifting our perspective,
Yeah.
those seemingly insignificant moments,
Yeah.
washing the dishes, commuting to work, having a cup of tea,
Right.
can become opportunities to practice
They can.
that no abiding place.
That's it.
To glimpse that Zen mind
Mm-hmm.
hiding in plain sight.
Exactly. It's like those kokens we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
The answer isn't, in the words,
Right.
but in the experience of seeking it,
I see.
of grappling with the question itself.
It's a deep dive for sure.
It is.
There's still so much to explore. We've covered a lot of ground,
Yeah,
but we still need to unpack those intriguing koans
Right.
and delve into how Zen's approach to enlightenment, challenges Western thought.
Definitely.
Ready to keep diving.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm still processing all that.
It's a lot to take in.
It's amazing how Zen is both, incredibly disciplined
Yeah.
and about finding freedom from attachment.
It is.
It's like a paradox in action.
Yeah. And that, paradoxical nature.
Yeah.
It's woven into the, very fabric of Zen. It's full of these seemingly contradictory teachings and sayings
Right.
that, at first glance, can leave you scratching your
You're
head.
telling me we've got to talk about the koans.
Oh, yeah, the koans.
Suki's book is full of them.
It is.
And they are truly mind-boggling.
I know.
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Classic.
What did your face look like before your parents were born?
Right.
It's like they're deliberately trying to mess with us.
Well, in a way, they are.
Really?
Remember, the purpose of a kofan,
Uh-huh.
it's not to provide, a logical answer.
Okay.
It's meant to disrupt our habitual ways of thinking,
Right.
to break us out of those intellectual ruts
Yeah.
that keep us from seeing things, with fresh eyes.
It's like they're saying, stop trying to figure it out with your head.
Exactly.
Just experience it.
And that experience, it often involves, confronting the limits
Yeah,
of our own understanding,
I could see that.
embracing those paradoxes that, logic can't quite grasp.
And that's where the humor comes in.
Right? The humor, yes.
Some of these Kofi Nans are so absurd.
They are.
He can't help but laugh.
I know, right?
Like a wooden horse neighed and a stone man cut capers.
Yeah.
What are you even supposed to do with that?
I know. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's meant to, shake us up,
Okay.
make us question our assumptions
Oh, right.
about, how the world works.
I see.
And sometimes that laughter, that moment of absurdity,
Yeah.
it can be a doorway to a deeper insight.
It's like a mental reset button.
Exactly. And Suzuki, he points out, these kokens,
Yeah.
they're often used during zazen,
Zazen.
seated meditation,
Right.
to help cultivate that, beyond logic mindset that Zen values.
It's like they're training the mind to, see past those limitations.
Yeah.
To open up to something
Yeah.
more intuitive, more direct.
Precisely. And this is where, we see those fascinating parallels
Yeah.
that Jung draws between Zen
Right.
and certain aspects of Western thought,
Okay.
particularly Christian mysticism.
Yes. That really struck me while reading Jung's foreword.
It's a really interesting connection.
He sees a connection, right, between Zen's emphasis on direct experience and, the mystical experiences.
Yes.
Described by Christian figures like Meister Eckhart.
It's as if, these different traditions,
Yeah.
despite their cultural and historical differences, they're all tapping into something
Yeah.
universal
I see.
about human consciousness, about, our innate capacity for awakening
Yeah.
and transcendence.
It makes you wonder if, beneath all the dogma and rituals,
Yeah.
there's, this common thread running through these various spiritual paths.
It's definitely a question worth pondering,
It is.
and, it makes Zen's message
Yeah.
all the more relevant, I think, in today's world.
How so?
In a world that's, increasingly interconnected,
You're right.
yet often divided,
Yeah.
perhaps Zen offers a way to bridge those divides,
Yeah.
to tap into, a shared human experience
I like that.
that transcends, cultural boundaries.
It's a powerful idea. And Zen, with its emphasis on direct experience, on like cutting through those layers of dogma and intellectualization, might just provide like a fresh perspective on those age-old questions, you know?
Absolutely.
That continue to like fascinate and challenge us.
And, you know, even though Zen originated in the East, there's something about its core message that resonates, I think, deeply with like a certain Western sensibility.
How so?
This focus on, you know, individual experience, on self-reliance, on seeing things for yourself, rather than blindly accepting authority.
Yeah, I see that.
It's a theme that runs through, you know, Western philosophy and literature as well.
It's like Zen is offering like a different way of approaching.
It is.
Those same questions that Western thinkers have been grappling with for centuries.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes it so appealing to so many people today.
Yeah.
Regardless of, you know, their cultural background.
It transcends those boundaries.
It does. It's not about subscribing to like a rigid belief system. But about like embarking on this personal journey of discovery, of cultivating a way of seeing the world that leads to greater freedom, clarity, and peace of mind.
So it's not about becoming, you know, some kind of enlightened hermit detached from the world.
No, not at all.
It's about bringing that Zen mind, that awareness, into like every aspect of our lives.
Exactly.
Our work, our relationships, even the most mundane tasks.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that those seemingly insignificant moments, a blooming flower, the sound of rain, a simple cup of tea.
It's about appreciating those simple things.
It is. It's about recognizing that they can become like opportunities for awakening, for glimpsing that, you know, deeper reality that's always been there waiting to be discovered.
Wow, that's beautifully put. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
Of this rich and multifaceted tradition.
Zen is a deep well, for sure.
It is. Thank you for guiding us through this, like, incredible deep dive.
My pleasure.
Into the world of Zen Buddhism.
It's been fun.
It's given me so much to think about, so many new perspectives to explore.
It's a journey, isn't it?
It is.
Zen is a journey, not a destination.
That's a good way to put it.
And it's a journey that, you know, anyone can embark on. Right here, right now, in the midst of their everyday lives.
And to our listener, I hope this deep dive has sparked your own curiosity.
Me too.
About Zen Buddhism.
It's fascinating stuff.
Maybe it's even like inspired you to, you know, explore further.
To learn more?
To pick up Suzuki's book.
Yeah, great book.
And delve deeper.
Definitely.
To its wisdom.
It's full of wisdom.
Whatever your path may be.
Yeah.
May it lead you to greater peace, understanding, and joy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.